Greetings, YouTube. I apologize if my voice sounds a little rough today. I am a smidge under the weather. Uh, so, I'm not a big fan of self-checkouts. Never have been. And I knew from the get-go that the only reason they were doing these things was to save money. Now, I realize it was advertised originally as to improve the consumer experience because you wouldn't have to wait in line. Of course, you still have to wait in line to get to the self-checkouts. If anyone didn't see that coming, I'm not really sure uh, why that was. Um, but I don't like them. And if I have an option, I do not choose to use them. Sometimes when I'm at Home Depot, the only option I have is to go through the contractor checkout because that's the only one that's got a person behind it. And sadly, when I'm at Savers, they don't have any people anymore. But I'm not the only one that doesn't like them. And over time, people have complained, and in some places, they're becoming less and less common. And the companies discovered that the consumers fairly quickly figured out how to scam the corporations of money. In fact, they are losing more money through theft, which makes me smile, than they are saving from uh, the fact that there would be one person in charge of six, tills instead of there being six cashiers at six tills. Um, and they don't want to come out and say that, mind you, but they're in some places they are phasing them out and they're putting people back in front of their cash registers. Now, one of the reasons prior to this admission, in at least amongst themselves, if not to the public, about the whole people are ripping us off, because they probably didn't want to say it out loud because they figured that other people would just get the idea to rip them off some more. I hope they do. Um, was that they were saying that, well, if we put people back on registers, it will drive prices up. Prices didn't go down when you took the registers away and forced people to use the self-checkout. And then people found a way, excuse me, and then people found a way to rip you off because you forced them to use self-checkout. So I quite enjoy the fact that they lost money, but their reasoning behind this has always been about the bottom line. Uh, if they really wanted to stand on the argument that if they put people back in front of the registers, it's going to cost the consumer more, then they're going to have to answer the question, why didn't it cost us less per item when there were no cashiers at the registers? Now, when you've offloaded the cashier's job onto my shoulders, so now I am now an employee of you doing your work for free. Why did the cost not go down? You're not paying people to do this job anymore. Instead of there being one cashier, six cashiers, now there's one. You've taken five people off the table, which means you now saved all of their salaries and their benefits and everything else. So that should have been a tangible savings at the register for the consumer. But of course it wasn't. It was just a tangible increase in the profits of the corporations, which again was always the point. Um, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Metropolis, which is supposed to be a vision of the future. Um, and in it, they show workers all dressed exactly the same, marching into work, and each worker goes in front of their machine, and they show how the worker is essentially an extension of the machine. Shoom, shoom, endless drone of work. But in the film, they show a person per machine. Very quickly, people that own factory realize that one person could control more than one machine, which is the truth in today's world. Very frequently, people run more than one machine. All right, so so corporations will always find the absolute most egregious way to abuse their employees. Since I've been in manufacturing and I've been doing this for 40 years, the amount of work each person does has done nothing but gone up. Well, of course, the pay has stalled and stagnated to a crawl. Now, there was some expansion of that because of COVID, and because of the realization that they just couldn't keep employees. they had to increase the pay. And in like a 1 year time period, my pay up went up like $6 an hour because I work an off shift and I am the lead. So between these things, they finally realized, oh, we actually have to pay people something. And they're still not paying us what we're worth. Okay. At this point, I make about 30 bucks an hour. But if minimum wage had kept pace with productivity, it would be about $28 an hour. So I'm still just barely making a realistic minimum wage. I should more realistically be making about $48 an hour, which is what I would be, say, if I was a union shop. So union shops, for the most part, are having what would reasonably be the pay for everyone if the government had made sure that minimum wage had kept pace with productivity and not with the flat rate they created ages ago. It's been 7.25 an hour for I can't remember how long now. Too long. Um, More than a decade at least. And it's important to remember that at the original inception of the minimum wage was what a single income, one person income, you would need to support a family of four, own your own home, a car, be able to take vacations, and be able to put your two kids through college on one income. That's like what, a $400,000 a year annual income now, if you want to do all those things. But that was the minimum wage at the time. So the least we could do is make sure that our minimum wage is going to let people live. So yes, we've decided that the bare minimum of survival is what we're going to call the minimum wage. Well, then you have to do it. You have to make sure that every single person can get on in a minimum wage, which of course leads back to self-checkout. Because when the self-checkout jobs uh, erased all those jobs, what I heard from a lot of people who are bootlicking uh, conservatives was that those jobs that were eliminated because they were low-skill jobs. There's no such thing as a low-skill job. All jobs require skill. Low-skill jobs is a framing created by corporations, by conservatives, to convince you that there are some people that you can look your nose down and you have condemned them to poverty and it's okay because that's all they're worth, which of course is both morally and ethically just an abomination. Every single person deserves housing and food and education and health care. Everyone of high quality. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they've done. I don't. I don't care if they've been born here or they're not born here. I don't care if their ethnicity is. I don't care if they're straight or cis or not. I don't care. Everyone deserves it. All right? Even the red caps. I even want the red caps to enjoy those things. Even though the red caps are doing everything in their power to make sure that no one has those things. So self-checkout was always about making the corporations money. And when now that they are no longer making them money, in fact, they're causing them to lose money, they're getting rid of them in many places. And they're now going back to having people at the registers, which is fine with me because I want to see people at those tills. But I want to see those people making a real world minimum wage. I want them to be earning $28 an hour. And before anyone in my comments says, well, do you expect some burger flipper to make $28 an hour? Yes, I do. And for every example of a job you think isn't worthy of that much money, I'm going to say the same thing. Yes, I am. I am saying that I want that person to make a minimum of $28 an hour because that's what they should be living on. Because that would be a salary that they could actually live comfortably on in the real world.